this computer. Hello, Flute Examiner followers. Keith here with another wonderful interview for our June edition. Today I have composer, flutist, and all-around amazing person, Erin Spencer. Welcome, Erin. So
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
we're glad to have you, and this is just another wonderful opportunity to celebrate uh, fellow flutists and composers, and this just worked out really well. So I appreciate you for joining us. So let's get to the line of questioning. So tell us a little
Great.
bit about you. We know you're obviously a flutist, or have flute adjacent things, or you wouldn't be on the interview. But you're a flutist. I know you as a composer and a wonderful person. Tell us more about you.
Yeah, I never, ever in a million years would have guessed that composing would be where I am right now. Like, if you told me that even 5 years ago, my mind would have been completely blown. So I started as a pianist in kindergarten and was just absolutely transfixed and obsessed with it. And my mom was teaching me at first, and then very quickly it became apparent that that was not enough and I needed an actual teacher. And then started playing flute in fifth grade and have been loving it and playing ever since. And for a really long time, I wanted to be a high school band director. As soon as I heard that music education was a degree you could get, I was like, that's what I want. Um, so then during my undergrad in music education at Mizzou, which was a wonderful music ed school, really loved it. When during my student teaching, I was working at a school with four bands, and the lowest band had like 100 kids in it. So lots of classroom management. And then at the same time, I was teaching private lessons. So that's when I learned that after a day of teaching band, I was exhausted, but after a private lesson, I had more energy. So then I thought I really wanted to become a private teacher, and I still do that, and I still love that. Since middle school, I've been arranging music. Like, I would take my piano books and make it for band or whatever, do little transcriptions and arrangements. And I always have just loved doing that. But I always said that I couldn't compose. So it was really Stephanie Superl with Flute Play who proved me wrong about that. But that's a little bit about me.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. It's nice. I think a lot of us start with very similar beginnings. We start out with a little bit of piano, and then our parents quickly go, no, no, get thee to a teacher. And it just
Yeah.
we follow that path from there. So you've already like kind of segued into my second question, which was what did you want to be when you grew up? You clearly answered that. Was there anything non-music related that you ever had an inkling?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of careers I could have been happy in, actually. Maybe not like as fulfilled as music, but there was a while I wanted to be a lawyer. There was a while I wanted to be an English teacher, and my mom told me I wasn't patient enough to be a teacher. And she was wrong. And also, I've always really loved archaeology, and I think I could have done that too.
Nice, nice. Marine biology and astrophysics was on my list of things, and a little bit of architecture too. So, with that being said, and those interests, and here you are, what do you think your teenage self would think of you today?
I would be absolutely blown away and thrilled, I think. Like, it would
Awesome.
be different than I would expect, and I would be confused as to how it happened. But also, as soon as I joined my high school flute choir, I really loved that. My high school flute teacher was Jane Copeland now she lives in Parker, Colorado, and she was absolutely wonderful, and I learned so much from her, and we did a flute choir at our high school. So once I joined that, I knew that I really loved flute choir too. So now I'm conducting a local flute choir. I'm writing for a flute choir, and conducting flute choir is like the perfect combination of wanting to be a high school band director and teaching flute, right? So conducting flute choir is like the best.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And we'll talk more about that shortly. So, within the path that you've taken and where you are now, were there any hurdles that kind of almost derailed you that you had to overcome, and how have you dealt with those? What did you learn from them?
Yeah, I would say the first one would be that I had my oldest kid about halfway through my master's degree, and definitely finishing up the last semester of my master's with a tiny baby was very interesting and with like no money because my spouse and I were both in grad school. So he had 5 different babysitters on Mondays, and it was just a lot of logistics and coordinating. But because he was so little, he could pretty much just like sit through my lesson and be happy without, needing to crawl or anything. It was way easier than it would have been with a toddler. But I've always felt like my practice time was so limited compared to other people my age because I had a kid at a younger age than a lot of people. So that has been tricky for sure. Time to practice with my small children. Now they're 9 and 7, so it's getting easier. Except now I devote most of that time to writing. And then the second one is also kid related. When my youngest, TJ, was born, I got Bell's palsy. So the left side of my face was completely paralyzed. And that was so scary because I thought I was having a stroke.
Mm.
So we called an ambulance and went to the ER. And then it turned out I had undiagnosed preeclampsia when he was born, which then causes swelling. So it pinched off the nerve that controls the left side of my face. So I couldn't play at all for 6 months. And even after I could play, it was really iffy for a while. So Kelly's paralysis story is Kelly Villa's Spies. Wait, we could cut that and fix that by pronouncing his name because I learned how to pronounce it from the interview. So let's see. Where would we start?
And that is why I asked him first thing.
Right,
Because we've
right.
all pronounced it differently at different times. So that was a good one to ask him. Um and
Definitely.
yeah, it's the health challenges are sometimes they're scary because what we do is such a fine motor skill, and it's, yeah. So thank you for sharing that. I know there are many other people out there that have similar situations, and so I think that's nice that to see somebody who's so successful and still on the rise, and where you are after all of that. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that. um
Yeah.
so currently, what non-musical things do you do, and how do you
Oh my
balance
gosh. I have,
family life and
yeah.
music life? Like, how do you?
It's really hard. It's really hard to balance it for sure. I have ADHD, so I have approximately every hobby you could possibly have. Um, right now, the big one is houseplants. COVID was a plant-demic for me, so 2020, I got very into plants. Never was interested at all before, but I love them and they help me be more mindful because I'll notice new leaves coming out, and I really enjoy that. I crochet, I embroider, I bake. I have done diamond painting. I also enjoy painting. I have like every single hobby, and I don't think I have the mix correct as far as balancing them, but I'm making a bunch of sugar cookies this week for my spouse's cabaret performance, so that's fun.
You know what? Cookies save the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So here's a this is a tough one, and you can pass if you'd like, but do you have any regrets?
Yeah, I was talking to some people about that in DC as part of the World Pride performances, and one of the things I mentioned was not starting to compose sooner and like convincing myself that I can compose sooner. But then Matt, my spouse, pointed out that it really happened at the right time for me. So if I started sooner, I don't know if I would have been successful with it, and then I might have given up. So that's one that I guess a little iffy on. And then I think I also regret stopping piano lessons in high school because then I've continued to play and teach, but I feel like there are things that would be more deeply ingrained in me if I had continued through high school.
Yeah, age and wisdom. We all look back
Yeah.
and go, but yeah, but I think those are two. I would tend to agree. I think just from what I've seen, things have happened at the right time for you. So
Mhm.
it's good to see you. You're just starting to blossom in the field. So I think that's, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get an interview with you early. Not to mention you're just a fun loving person, and that was just I was like,
Oh, thank
let's
you.
get her on the list. So here's a fun one. This is one of my favorites to ask because sometimes it's very surprising. Who has inspired you and your career, or who do you look up to? And I mean, anybody.
Yeah, it's really interesting thinking about my career specifically. I think first I'm going to say my therapist because Somewhere Bluebirds Fly would not exist without them. Because at first I was trying to find a different piece that could work that was already written for because I live in Colorado Springs where the Club Q shooting took place. So I knew that I wanted our flute choir to do a piece in memory of the shooting, but I did not feel like I could write one. And so I had been looking around for one and not finding anything. And they were like, Erin, you are the right one to write it. Just do it. And I listened, which was also helpful. But yeah, I think my therapist really, truly has changed my life. Therapy is wonderful. And Alice Dade, my professor at Mizzou, we performed one or two of my arrangements for flute choir while I was there. So that was the first time that any of my music was performed publicly. And she's so wonderful. Love her. And then my current composition teacher is Stefan Freund, who's also at the University of Missouri, and he conducted the new music ensemble while I was there, which I played with for my master's degree. And so I got to premiere so many brand new works, and I think that experience is also helping shape who I am as a composer now.
Mhm.
So,
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, it's I had a master's professor who thought every musician needed a therapist. So
yep,
I
every
just
person really.
well, yeah, she said a therapist and a gay best friend. So that was kind of
Ah,
kind of perfect.
perfect.
Yeah. So I mean that's great. So and you just mentioned the piece. That's the next question. So talk a little bit about your piece Somewhere Bluebirds Fly. You refer to that as a pivotal or career pivoting piece. Um, and I'm going to
Absolutely.
combine these, and where these kind of all these questions will all kind of blur together in a conversation. So you and I first met through NFA's LGBTQ plus flute choir, and we premiered. I believe it was a premiere of Somewhere Bluebirds Fly.
My Colorado Springs group had played it before.
Okay, so it's the first national premiere
Yes,
with
for
yeah.
sure.
So
Much
and
bigger
it was the
audience.
perfect group to do that with. So talk a little bit about this piece. I mean, you've already mentioned that you live in Colorado Springs, so that's you have a deeper connection with it. But talk a little bit about some of the nuances of it. I know our flute choir just performed it, and it was the hit of our entire rep list that year,
Oh,
this past year. And I know that our one of our assistant conductors, Jane, reached out to you, and you guys had a great conversation about a bit of it. So tell us a little
yeah,
bit of what you would want people to know about it, and with your permission, I'll tie the link from the LGBTQ plus flute
sure.
choir performance, and I'll put it in with the interview.
Yeah, absolutely. The National Gallery of Art performance, I did update some things. So the National Gallery of Art performance better reflects the published version of the piece. So
Okay,
probably
I'll
that
use
one
that
I
one
can
then.
email you the link.
Sure.
Um, so I am a native to Colorado and then went out of state for school, but moved back home. And when we did, we moved to Colorado Springs. And Colorado Springs is a very strange city to live in because it's very conservative due to the strong military presence, but we're in a relatively blue state. And the city I lived in before was a blue city and a red state. So it's like completely different vibe from where I was living before. Because Colorado Springs is more conservative, there's a higher amount of homophobia. So then when the Club Q shooting happened, it was not particularly surprising, unfortunately, that a shooting at a gay bar happened in our city. And a lot of people felt like we should have seen this coming and maybe done more to prevent it as a city. But it was so devastating to our community. And so heartbreaking. So that was actually the first time that I flew a pride flag outside my house was after the club Q shooting because I had kind of hidden before that, but that shooting was really a wake-up call that I'm not going to hide who I am. I'm going to be open and honest about who I am as a bisexual woman. And that was life-changing. And the vigils and memorial services that I went to were so, of course, heartbreaking, but also beautiful to see the community coming together to support one another. And in my opinion, the queer community in Colorado Springs is much tighter knit after the shooting than we were before because we're looking out for each other. We are more supportive of one another. And of course, it would be better if the shooting never happened, but to watch that change occur within the queer community here was really beautiful. So I knew that I needed to process it through music. And after I was unsuccessful finding another piece for us to do, and my therapist encouraged me to write one, um, at first I just wanted to do like a minor, sadder version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And that was not going to reflect the story and emotions that I wanted to tell with the piece. So then I ended up picking a note to represent each one of the victims. So there's D's for Daniel and Derek, an A for Ashley, a C for Kelly Loving, and a G for Raymond Green. And so the first four measures of the piece are made up entirely of those notes. And then later in the piece, after the moment that represents the shooting, there's a key change where none of those notes are present anymore. So unfortunately, I had to write in G sharp minor. I apologize.
It's not as bad as it sounds, by the way, everybody. It's not as bad as it sounds.
Um, and then I really wanted to finish the piece by saying their names again to remind everyone that we do not want to forget them and let them just disappear into the history books. So the very last chord of the piece is made up of those notes again. Um, and it is heavily inspired and pulled from Somewhere Over the Rainbow, but it goes in so many different modes
Mhm.
and directions and moods. And the only time we hear the Somewhere Over the Rainbow theme is at the very end, in the section that's supposed to represent joy and hope and strength in the face of adversity. So, it's a very special piece to me, and how it ended up getting performed at NFA was that when I was looking for pieces, alternative pieces for my group to do, I reached out to Vincenzo Volpe, who's the wonderful, wonderful,
All right.
amazing coordinator for the LGBTQ plus flute choir. And I was asking him if there were other pieces he knew of that would work, and he said no. And I was like, okay, well, I might write something. If I get it done, I'll send it to you. And so I sent it to him, and then he was just like, great, we'll perform it in NFA. And I was like, oh, okay,
He's kind of
cool.
like that.
Yeah. He's so wonderful and generous and supportive of living queer composers, which is amazing. So, then they offered me the chance to conduct it for that NFA performance, which was a wild experience to conduct a group this incredible.
You know,
It's like the best group I've ever played with. It's so good.
like I said, we're segueing right through my line of questioning. So I was going to ask you.
Perfect.
So one of the questions was like, what is it like to sit in that group? I mean, I can speak to that too, but it just like, we have like a laundry list of like well-known players, major orchestral players, teachers. Like you sit there and look at the group and you go, oh my God, I know all of these people. I've seen them in flute talk, I've seen them online, I've attended
Right.
concerts. How does that feel? Talk a little bit more about how that felt to have them playing your piece.
Yeah, that was amazing because it really, so first of all, to sit in that ensemble is a wonderful spirit of camaraderie and togetherness and unity that is different from any other ensemble I've played with
Mhm.
because we know what we have, what shared experiences we have. And so that's really beautiful. And then the first, like when we tuned the first time that I played with this group, I
Right.
was like, okay, okay, I see what we're working with here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
No fear of those
and
delicate
one of my
lines.
friends that Yeah, yes. That's as a conductor, playing with this group has really inspired me to work with my Colorado Springs ensemble on tapers because the LGBTQ flute choir can do a taper
Yeah.
like nobody's business without going flat. And so watching Kelly conduct it the first year I was in it, he could just pull out that note as long as he felt like it, and we would just keep playing until the note faded away
And that
just
pitch.
absolutely perfectly. Yeah,
Yeah.
without going flat at all. And that adds such a wonderful air of musicality and depth to all the music. It's so good.
Yep. And for those watching this interview, I please click the link and listen to the flute choir perform Erin's piece at World Pride, because it's such a I think the gala concert, because I was playing alto and George Pope was standing behind me, and I think I don't think there was a single dry eye in the group when we finished.
Well, luckily, I mostly made it through the actual performance without crying, but I was crying at every single rehearsal and I was a mess. So
Yeah. Yeah, you're not the only one. Those
I,
those notes get hard to read when you're like, so
yeah.
yeah, but it was
Yeah.
and that was such an incredible performance concert, because we were pre-gala concert and there literally was standing room only in the lobby. The number of people that were there was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It was
so
amazing.
getting a little choked up thinking about it. So
Mhm.
anyway,
Yeah, it was so special.
yeah, it was very special. So please follow the link, give it a listen, buy the piece. It's just a gorgeous, and they're just like you said, it's influenced by Somewhere Over the Rainbow. The hints, the way you interject hints at that, it's done. It's done like somebody who has been composing far longer than you claim to be. So
Yeah, that was really one of the crazy things was like after our first or second rehearsal, I think somebody asked me, I don't remember who it was, but somebody asked me if I was teaching composition at a college, and I was like, no, no, like absolutely not. This is like my first thing. So before Somewhere Bluebirds Fly, I had really only written little short pieces for beginners for the Little Flute magazine. Um, and it really is my first piece. So then it was pretty daunting. I mean, of course, the reception to it meant so much to me and really helped me realize that I did want to compose. It was also a little intimidating at first because I didn't know if I could do it again.
yeah.
But now I feel like I have. So now I feel like I can take on pretty much any project I want with confidence, which feels really good.
Speaking of which, you have a new project coming up that you were just awarded by the NFA. Want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, so I will be composing the Low Flute Committee Commission for the 2026 convention in Portland, which I'm so excited about because it's a piece that I wanted to write anyway. I was so moved and affected by the total eclipse in 2019, 2018? No, 2016. When I lived in Missouri, we were fortunate to live right in the path of totality, and it was mind-blowing, and words cannot convey or describe how soul-shattering it feels when it happens. And it really feels like you're pulled back in time and connected to our ancient ancestors who must have experienced the same thing and had no idea what was going on. And no matter how I describe it to people, I can't convey how amazing it is. So then I knew I wanted to write a piece about it. And after the most recent eclipse, there it really does not make sense for me to see another one for 20 years. And that's so sad to me. So I want to write a piece that conveys the power and wild experience that it is of seeing a total eclipse, so that I can at least experience it through music for the next 20 years.
Well, I look forward to hearing that. I know it's the topic is really cool, and I look forward to seeing how you realize that. So that'll be fun.
Mhm.
I'm sure there are others out there that will also be looking forward to that. So you guys need to really pay attention. This woman is kicking butt and taking names, and she's an up and coming flute choir composer that's doing some big stuff right out of the gate. So, what about this NFA? Do you want to talk a little bit about what all's on your plate for this one?
Sure. So I'm so thrilled that I'll be conducting the LGBTQIA plus flute choir for this NFA. And we have a really fun program.
Mhm.
We're going to premiere Waves of Infinity by Artie Rodriguez, which is a gorgeous piece I'm super excited to conduct. We will be playing Zachary Meyer's piece in memory of Eric Moll. We will be playing Dr. Matthew Herman's piece in memory of Harvey Milk. And I have a Chapel Roan medley that we're going to play. And we're going to play, in my opinion, the gayest thing Tchaikovsky ever wrote. So it's gonna be great. I
That's
probably
amazing.
forgot one. I think there's one more piece. Oh, um, we're gonna do The Wizard and I from Wicked
Awesome.
with Zach
Awesome.
Gladys singing, so it'll be
Of
awesome.
of course, he did such a great job singing last year and at World Pride. So I it's that's this it's a great set. It'll be, I think, highly enjoyed by the players and the audience. And I'm very
Absolutely.
humbled to be under. I just smacked my mic. Very humbled to be under your microphone, under your baton on Contra. So I'll be sitting back there honking on the low notes for you.
That's great. The more low power, the better.
Yeah, that's, you can't have enough bass. It's all about that bass, as it were. So yeah,
Absolutely.
so beside, I mean, obviously that's quite
Oh,
a lot to
I do
take.
have one more NFA thing to mention,
Oh
actually.
yeah.
So, other than that, Beta Quartet commissioned a flute quartet for me for their Anthems of Dialogue project. So my quartet for that is called Borrowed Earth, and they are performing that at NFA as well. I believe that performance is going to be on Thursday. Of course, the NFA schedule is still subject to change, but I'm really excited for that to be played at NFA too.
Oh, the Beta Quartet is an amazing group. I know them. They're
They've been
wonderful
wonderful.
people and really, really amazing players. So they will put on a good performance. I know they will. So, and if they're listening, love you guys. Um but yeah, I mean, not like that's enough to do already. So you've got all this coming up to NFA, then you've got a project for the following NFA.
Right.
Do you have any time for yourself? Or is this it
Well,
right
I
now?
also have four other commissions due by January. I have five commissions due by February.
I have a feeling you're going to be very busy moving forward.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love it. So the projects I have going right now, I'm writing a wind ensemble version of Somewhere Bluebirds Fly, which is scheduled to be premiered in January in Denver by an LGBTQ band, which I'm so thrilled about. And then arranging two pieces for Dan Paraski, which I'm also very excited about. One of them's a Final Fantasy medley, and the other one's from Game of Thrones. And then I'm writing an original work for Cassandra Eisenreich from Beta
Mhm.
um, for her Slippery Rock University and high school honors flute choirs. And then the Eclipse piece Totality will be done in February. So that's all the projects I have coming up. And honestly, writing is so fulfilling. Like, I'm not being very good at taking time for myself, but going to New York and DC was wonderful. So, Borrowed Earth was performed twice in New York City, and then there was just a perfect 1 week span before World Pride in DC with the LGBTQ flute choir. So I got to see a bunch of musicals, got to see maybe Happy Ending before it won the Tony for Best Musical with one of my best friends. So that week was very refreshing.
Well, good. At least a little bit of recharge and some social time with friends. Well,
Mhm.
Erin, I'm looking forward to great things coming from you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in August and working with you as always. I'm so excited for your success. And I thank you for taking a few minutes for our Flute Examiner followers and just sharing you. So hopefully we'll
Absolutely.
get to do it again. And again, we'll see each other in August. So thank you very much for
Yes.
submitting to questioning. Um,
Of
it's always a
course.
pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right. Thank you, Flute Examiner followers. We'll have a bunch of links and things in the article about Erin, and you can check out our website and listen to some of her music and keep her working. We want to do all the things for her. So take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.